Welcome back to another explainer. If you've ever stared at a school attendance policy and just thought, wow, this is a giant wall of bureaucratic red tape, honestly, you are definitely not alone. It is so easy to feel like attendance laws are just about counting days and checking arbitrary boxes. But today, we're going to reframe that entirely. We're taking a close look at Mississippi's compulsory school attendance law, and we're going to see how it's actually designed to be a supportive framework for student success, rather than just a series of hurdles to jump over. Whether you're a parent, a guardian, or just someone curious about how our educational systems actually function, understanding the nuts and bolts of this structure is absolutely vital. So let's quickly lay out the roadmap for our explainer today. We'll be hitting 1, the core attendance rules, 2, what actually counts as truancy, 3, the role of attendance officers, 4, homeschooling compliance, and 5, why every single day matters. Let's kick things off with a foundational question. When exactly does school attendance become a legal requirement in Mississippi? I bet you have an age in your head right now. Maybe you're thinking it's when a kid starts kindergarten or maybe first grade. People almost always assume state mandates are tied to grade levels, but the law actually operates on a very specific biological clock.
The magic numbers here are 6 through 16. In Mississippi, the compulsory attendance law applies to children who hit the age of 6 on or before September 1st of the calendar year. And that requirement continues for those who have not yet reached age 17 on or before that exact same September 1st cutoff. Once a kid enters this specific compulsory attendance window, the family is legally required to ensure they are enrolled in a public school, a private school, or a state-approved homeschool program. This strict age-based rule is exactly why schools are so meticulous about getting precise birthday documentation during enrollment. It dictates the exact moment the state's legal framework officially kicks in.
Section 1. Core Attendance Rules. Establishing the legal baseline. Let's see how this all builds the foundation for Mississippi students. Because, like with almost any rule, there is one major exception to that age bracket we just talked about. While the law officially says ages 6 through 16, Mississippi throws 5-year-olds into the mix if they are enrolled in a full-day public kindergarten program. They fall under the exact same attendance rules, meaning if you opt to enroll your 5-year-old early, you are agreeing to take on the exact same legal responsibilities as the parent of a high school sophomore. Early enrollment basically brings early accountability. The state views that instructional time as absolutely critical, regardless of the fact that the child hasn't hit that magic age of 6 yet. Now, speaking of accountability, we really need to talk about the number 20. Specifically, 20 consecutive unexcused absences. If a student hits this threshold, districts in Mississippi actually have the authority to initiate withdrawal procedures. But they don't just drop the student from the roster, wash their hands, and walk away. Hitting 20 consecutive unexcused days triggers mandatory attendance enforcement steps. That means the school must refer the student to state attendance officials. Think of it as a dual trigger. It initiates both an administrative withdrawal and immediate legal enforcement. Section 2, what counts as truancy? Busting the myths. Let's clear up some major misconceptions. What you probably think of as truancy might not be the legal reality at all. When we hear the word truant, we almost always picture some teenager skipping the entire school day, maybe hanging out at the mall or playing video games on the couch. But Mississippi's definition is way tighter than that. State guidance makes it crystal clear. Attendance concerns absolutely do not just mean full-day absences. Truancy generally covers any absence without a valid excuse. That means skipping a single scheduled class, blowing off a study hall, or missing a mandatory school-related activity completely counts as truancy. A student could literally be physically sitting in the school cafeteria, but if they skip their required instructional time, they are legally truant. This is a huge myth-busting moment for parents who assume they only need to worry if their kid skips the whole day. Section 3, the role of attendance officers, support, not just punishment. Let's meet the folks actually tracking this stuff. Enter the school attendance officer, usually referred to as an SAO. Now, it's super easy to view these officers as just truancy cops, right? Like their only job is to hand out penalties and make life difficult. But that is a total misconception. The Mississippi Department of Education structures SAOs as vital community resources stationed in every single district. Yes, they absolutely ensure compliance with the law, but their mandate is equally focused on dropout prevention. They are literally there to build a bridge back to the classroom for students who are starting to drift away. And you can really see the balance in their daily duties. An SAO steps in when a student has repeated unexcused absences, and sometimes that even means physically helping districts locate students who have just fallen completely off the radar. But their other critical jobs include providing enrollment guidance to families, connecting students back to school resources, and reducing the overall dropout risk. Their ultimate goal? It isn't punishment, it's re-engagement. They are problem solvers meant to figure out exactly why a student isn't showing up, and more importantly, how to fix it. Section 4. Homeschooling Compliance. Doing it by the book. For families planning to transition out of public school, Mississippi fully recognizes homeschooling as a perfectly valid way to satisfy compulsory attendance. But you can't just silently stop sending your kid to class. Let's walk through the exact compliance process. Step 1, obviously, is making the choice to homeschool. Step 2 is officially withdrawing the student from their current public school. You absolutely cannot skip this step, or those unexcused absences we talked about earlier will start piling up fast. And step 3, this is the big one, the absolute most vital administrative detail. Parents must complete an enrollment form with their local school attendance officer every single year, by September 15th. It is a hard annual deadline that you really cannot afford to miss. The state is very direct about this. The guidance essentially says it is not enough to simply keep a child at home. The family must follow the state's enrollment process to remain in compliance. The state absolutely respects the right to homeschool, but they demand the documentation. If that annual September 15th filing isn't done, the student is legally considered truant, even if they are getting a world-class education right there at your kitchen table. Section 5. Why every single day matters. The big picture. Let's pull back and look at the actual human impact. We've talked a ton about rules, deadlines, and legal compliance. But why is the state of Mississippi so rigid about this? It comes down to this. Education officials constantly link daily attendance with long-term life outcomes. Missing school regularly stalls reading progress. It lowers math performance. In high school, it literally halts credit accumulation, pushing graduation further and further out of reach. And honestly, perhaps most importantly, it damages a student's emotional and social connection to their school environment. And this stuff compounds incredibly quickly, especially in middle and high school. A student misses a few days here and there, they fall behind in multiple subjects, the makeup work piles up, they feel totally overwhelmed, and then they miss more school just to avoid the stress. It's a vicious cycle. The state's strict attendance framework is designed to intervene early, before that downward spiral actually takes hold. So, practically speaking, how do we manage all this? Well, let's walk through a quick, actionable playbook for parents. If you face an illness or a family emergency, your immediate action step is to provide written documentation according to your specific district's rules. If you're dealing with transportation or housing issues, which, by the way, are incredibly common barriers to attendance, communicate early with the school. Please don't hide it. Schools and SAOs actually have resources to help you. And if you are transitioning to homeschooling, just like we covered, file that annual SAO enrollment by September 15th. Actually, scratch that. I really want to pause on one of those details for a second, because it catches so many well-meaning parents completely off guard. A phone call alone may not be enough to classify an absence as excused. You might call the front office, tell them your child is sick, and think you're good to go. But many schools require written documentation, like a doctor's note or a signed parent letter, to legally classify that absence as excused under their specific policy. Without that exact paper trail, it might just go down as unexcused, inching your child closer and closer to that 20-day withdrawal trigger we discussed. So always, always double-check your district's policy on documentation. Which leaves us with a final question for you to chew on today. Are you treating attendance as a daily priority for your child's success? Mississippi laws are straightforward in principle, sure, but they require your active participation in practice. Staying informed, communicating early with your school, and keeping that paper trail perfectly clean are the absolute best ways to protect not just legal compliance, but the long-term academic future of the student. Because at the end of the day, they really can't learn if they aren't there. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep showing up, and I will see you next time.